A wilderness area is a region where the land is in a natural state, where impacts from human activities are minimal. That is, as a wilderness. It might also be called a wild and natural area. Especially in wealthier, industrialized nations, it has a specific legal meaning as well, as land where development is prohibited by law. Many nations have designated wilderness areas, including Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa and the United States. The Wild Foundation states that wilderness areas have two dimensions: they must be biologically intact and legally protected. The World Conservation Union classifies wilderness at two levels, Iowa and IB. Most scientists and conservationists agree that no place on Earth is completely untouched by humanity, either due to past occupation by indigenous people or through global process such as climate change. Activities on the margins of specific wilderness areas, such as fire suppression and the interruption of animal migration, also affect the interior of wildernesses. Wilderness areas by country. Finland. There are 12 wilderness areas in the semi-native region in northern Finnish Lapland. They are intended both to preserve the wilderness character of the areas and further the traditional livelihood of the Sami people. This means e.g. that reindeer husbandry, hunting and taking wood for use in the household is permitted. As population is very sparse, this is generally no big threat to the nature. Large-scale reindeer husbandry has influence on the ecosystem, but no change is introduced by the Act on Wilderness Areas. The World Commission on Protected Areas classifies the areas as the protected area with sustainable use of natural resources. France. Since 1861, the French Waters and Forests Military Agency put a strong protection on what was called the Artistic Reserve in Fontainebleau State Forest. With a total of 1,097 hectares, it is known to be the first world nature reserve. Then in the 1950s, integral biological reserves are dedicated to man-free ecosystem evolution. On the contrary of managed biological reserves where a specific management is applied to conserve vulnerable species or threatened habitats, integral biological reserves occurs in French state forests or city forests and therefore managed nowadays by the National Forests Office. In such reserves, all harvests coupe forbidden excepted exotic species elimination attract safety works to avoid fallen tree risks to visitors. At the end of 2014, there were 60 integral biological reserves in French state forests for a total area of 111,082 hectares and 10 in city forests for a total of 2,835 hectares. New Zealand. There are 7 wilderness areas in New Zealand as defined by the National Parks Act 1980 and the Conservation Act 1987 that fall well within the IUCN definition. Wilderness areas cannot have any human intervention and can only have indigenous species reintroduced into the area if it is compatible with conservation management strategies. United States. In the United States, a wilderness area is an area of federal land set aside by an act of Congress. Human activities in wilderness areas are restricted to scientific study and non-mechanized recreation. Horses are permitted but motorized vehicles and equipment are not. Western Australia. In Western Australia, a wilderness area is an area that has a wilderness quality rating of 12 or greater and meets a minimum size threshold of 8,000 hectares in temperate areas or 20,000 hectares in arid and tropical areas. A wilderness area is gazetted under Section 62 of the Conservation and Land Management Act 1984 by the Minister on any land that is vested in the Conservation Commission of Western Australia. International. For a comprehensive review of wilderness areas by country, reference a handbook on international wilderness law and policy.